Hello, everyone. This is the Echols Unlimited podcast. I'm your host, Terrence Echols, and today we're going to just talk about a few things. It is Tuesday, June 18th, 2019. It's the afternoon, and I just wanted to get into a few topics today. I'm just going to be talking about Game 6 of the NBA Finals. I want to talk about what's recently transpired in the NBA. There are a few big topics of discussion. I wanted to talk about the NBA draft coming up very soon. And I also wanted to talk about the Women's World Cup a little bit. So today's a pretty jam-packed podcast. I want to thank you for listening. And so we're going to start with Game 6 of the NBA Finals. So Game 6 ended up being the final game of the NBA Finals, just like I predicted, if you go back and listen to the past episode. But I just wanted to talk about how the Raptors won 114-110. They were led by Pascal Siakam, who had 26 points, 10 rebounds. He shot 3 for 6 from 3, which I've gone on in the past as saying if you shoot 50% from 3, that means you had a great shooting night. So he did very well. And the most staggering stat of the night is that Siakam played 46 minutes on Game 6. So that was huge. A guy with his motor to be able to play so long, that's big for the Raptors to have someone like that who plays so hard and who is able to give you 46 minutes in such a pivotal game. Game 6 turned out to be the most important game of the series, in my opinion, for both teams, because if the Raptors had lost that game and the game went back to Game 7, I didn't think they'd be able to pull it out in Game 7. But they did their best. They worked hard. And they were able to make the plays that they needed towards the end of the game. They were able to execute on offensively and defensively. Had a couple lapses here and there, but other than that, they played a great game on Thursday. So the Raptors weren't just led by Pascal Siakam in Game 6. They were also led by Kyle Lowry, Fred VanVleet, and Kawhi Leonard, who were all able to give at least 22 points in the big game. Lowry started off the game hot. He had, I think, 15 points in the first quarter, which is huge for a guy like him who's gone over such scrutiny for not being able to perform in the playoffs. And I think Lowry was able to put all of his haters to rest in terms of how they talk about how he can't play in the playoffs and how he's just a regular season type of player and how he just gets shut down and the lights are too bright for him. And I believe he just tuned all of that out and just came out and balled in Game 1, in the first quarter of Game 6. And it really showed with his hot start. In his final stat line, 26 points, 10 assists, and 7 rebounds, shooting 4 for 7 from 3. That's as good as you can play if you're Kyle Lowry. So I wanted to give a shout out to him. He played as well as you could in that last game. And I'm proud of him for being able to put his critics to rest. And Fred VanVleet, he had 22 points. He hit big shots towards the end of the game. He even had Steph Curry switching off of him, which was funny. There was a funny clip on Twitter that people were showing. Stephen Curry got switched onto VanVleet, and you saw he was motioning for Iggy or someone else to go guard him, and he went and guarded Danny Green, who was standing in the corner. I thought that was funny that Steph Curry wanted no parts of Fred VanVleet in the half court. So I thought that was great. And he really played well these last, I want to say, 8 games of the playoffs. He came alive in the Milwaukee series where he didn't miss any threes. He shot 82%, I think, in the last 3 games of that series. So he really showed out, and he helped make a name for himself in the NBA. Not many people knew. People knew about him from last year's playoff run as the backup point guard for the Toronto Raptors, how he could make shots and how he could be a key contributor on a quality team. But they didn't know that he had potential to even take over a game at times. And he hit a couple of step-back shots, a couple of mid-range shots towards the end of the game that I was like, man, this guy can really hoop. He can really ball, If you put him in the right opportunity, he might be able to start for someone. So I was very impressed by how Fred VanVleet was able to play. And I just wanted to give a shout-out to him as well. And Kawhi Leonard, he contributed 22 points, which is what he needed to do. He played how he needed to play in order for them to win. So I'm very impressed with how Kawhi Leonard was able to contribute to the Raptors this entire postseason, even when teams started game planning for him, which is difficult to do when you're a star player and playing in the NBA and a team is just game planning to get the ball out of your hands to keep you from scoring. And he still scored over 20 points with that 22 points he poured in. So that was huge for the Claw. He got his second NBA Finals MVP. He is the third player in NBA history to have two NBA Finals MVPs with two different teams. The other two are LeBron James and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, which is some pretty solid company, considering in my own personal Mount Rushmore for NBA players, I have both of them on my Mount Rushmore. So the fact that he's able to put his name in with those two guys is just great. So now we get into how the Warriors played. Wardell, Stephen Curry, I think we all know him as Steph Curry. He was able to contribute 21 points and 7 assists in the losing effort. I thought he played all right. He didn't have the greatest game of his career. He shot 3 for 11 from the three-point line, which is uncharacteristic of him. We normally look at Steph Curry as someone who shoots 45% from 3, and he missed a wide open shot at the end of the game. That's tough to watch. It was tough to watch a guy who can make that shot 10 out of 10 times. The Warriors ran a great sideline out of bounds play to where they threw a lob to Draymond Green, who was posting up on the block, and they had a little decoy with Steph Curry motioning to go get the ball towards the inbounder, and they threw it to the opposite block where Draymond Green was positioned, and they set a pick for Steph Curry to come around, catch and shoot. He missed. It's too bad to see him miss that shot because I know that's a shot he could have made. And it's tough because a lot of people have pointed to the fact that Steph Curry hasn't been able to contribute to the level in which he's been able to play in the regular season in the finals. So I thought that a good finals performance would put all of his haters to rest. And I don't think a player like him deserves the type of scrutiny he gets for not being able to play well in the finals. You look at his resume, he's still a 2-time MVP, a 3-time champion. So you can't take away from him just because he hasn't played up to that MVP level in the finals, which is hard to do anyway. So I look at Steph Curry as still one of the 5 best players in the world. I look at Steph Curry as the greatest shooter of all time. I know that he would have made that shot, 8 times out of 10 if he was in a situation where, if he was in a different situation, or I don't know what happened. He just missed. Sometimes players in the NBA miss shots, and it's tough to realize that players actually miss shots. They're being guarded by some of the best athletes in the world. So shout out to the Warriors for a great season. They were very exciting. Shout out to Andre Iguodala, who poured in 22 points in the losing effort. He came to play. He showed why he deserved that 2015 Finals MVP over Steph Curry, because he plays best when the lights are on. And a guy like him at his age, with the amount of injuries that he's gone through, especially this season, to be able to play like that in an NBA Finals closeout game, that's great for him. He had a great pull-up jump shot towards the end of the game that I was surprised even went in. But I'm very proud to see a guy like Andre Iguodala be able to play that way. And for the sad news of that Game 6, Klay Thompson did not play in the fourth quarter, and that is because he went out in towards the end of the third quarter with a torn ACL. And torn ACLs are some of the worst injuries in sports. They are normally killers for players who play different sports, such as lacrosse and football. But since basketball's not as such a contact-oriented sport, tearing an ACL is not a huge deal. I've seen players come back from tearing an ACL and continue to play well, but I've also seen players who have had their careers derailed from a torn ACL because of the long time it takes for them to recover. the physical therapy you have to go through, the soreness, the icing, like it's such a poor injury. It's such a bad injury. It's obnoxious. It's annoying, and I feel for anybody who has to go through that. So shout out to Klay Thompson. I hope you get better. I'm looking forward to watching him, if not at the end of next season, then the season after that in 2021. I know that he's going to come out poised and ready because Klay is a baller. I don't know if anyone's realized, but Klay can hoop. He's tough. He plays hard. He shoots the mess out of the ball. So shout out to Klay Thompson. This win was huge for the fan base of the Toronto Raptors. It was huge for the country of Canada. They finally won a major sports trophy, which they haven't done in a while. I believe the Maple Leafs won in the 1990s, but other than that, the city of Toronto, the country of Canada, hasn't really won much. The Blue Jays won in the 90s, I want to say, too, but like I said, it's been a while since the country has won something huge. And an NBA title is exactly what the country needed. It's exactly what the city of Toronto needed. They're a dedicated fan base despite their actions in Game 5 towards Kevin Durant. I think they're all good people. And I'm happy for them. I'm happy that the city is able to rally around a team who was put together in such a way that you don't see very often. None of the players on this year's Toronto Raptors team that won the championship were lottery picks in the NBA draft. And that just goes to show you how player development is such a huge part of the game in basketball. Player development is the single most important thing you need on a team, and it's the single most important thing that a player needs to do in order to continue his life in the NBA. So if a player, I don't find working on a player's body to be as important. I don't find working on a player's brand to be as important. But I find that refining their skills and keeping their skills up to tip-top shape is exactly what keeps players like LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, guys who were able to play for such a long time at a high level. That's why they were able to play, is because they continue to work on their skills, they master their fundamentals, and they have just a dedication to themselves in the gym. So if the Toronto Raptors championship doesn't teach you anything, just know player development is key. So this past week is very eventful in the NBA community. Anthony Davis, the power forward for the New Orleans Pelicans, he's been there for, I want to say, 8 years, which is crazy. Or 7 seasons actually, since 2012 he's been playing there. But he's been there for 7 seasons, and he finally was able to receive his request, and they were finally able to come through on his request of being traded from the organization. And he was traded to the Los Angeles Lakers, who were the team that people thought that he was going to be traded to this whole time. He had said publicly that he wanted to go to the Lakers. His agent, Rich Paul, had said publicly that he wanted him to go to the Lakers. And it just seemed like a deal that was meant to happen. So people are looking at the deal in 2 ways. People are saying, oh, the Lakers sort of forced this to happen. Rich Paul, LeBron James made this happen. They conspired against the Pelicans and forced a trade, and some people don't look at that as very ethical in the NBA. And I just wanted to try to debunk that sort of thought. I don't think that they were trying to do anything diabolical or evil or tried to ruin the Pelicans. I think it would have been even more evil if Anthony Davis said he wanted to stay and then inevitably just ended up leaving so that the Pelicans couldn't get anything in return. I feel like the trade request is probably the best way to go about a situation like this. So I'm glad he gets to be in a place where he wants to play. I'm glad that the Pelicans were able to get compensation for him, and part of the compensation that they got for him was Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, the number 4 pick in this upcoming NBA draft and 2 later picks to be determined in terms of where the Lakers are positioned in the draft, or where the Pelicans want to get the pick, or whether or not they wanted to defer to a future season. It's kind of weird. Picks have all these sort of protections and stuff on them. I don't really like to get into all the details concerning the picks, but they gave up three picks overall, as well as Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, and Josh Hart to get Anthony Davis. And I think that's a reasonable haul. I think that the Pelicans were able to get some depth. They were able to get some young assets to help build around Zion Williamson, who they're expected to pick with the number 1 overall pick in the 2019 NBA draft. They're able to get some future picks so that they can use in either a future trade, or they could possibly use to select a future star in the NBA. You never know what they could get. So I feel like both teams, because for the Pelicans were able to put together a good team, but the Lakers were able to add another star to pair with LeBron James, which is very important because LeBron needed another star in order to contend, and it turns the Lakers into immediate contenders. So I'm looking forward to watching the Anthony Davis and LeBron show next year. I think it can be the West version of Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, who are the up-and-coming stars in the NBA. I feel like they're going to run the NBA in 5 to 6 years from now, when they're both, 30, 31, just getting into their primes. They've developed their bodies completely. They've had the time to mature their games, and I feel like they're going to be dangerous for these next few years in the NBA. They already are a tough dynamic duo in Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, and the fact that personalities like Stephen A. Smith and other people, the second they lose, just want to say, yep, trade one. They can't coexist together. I think that's foolishness. When you have 2 star caliber players, you don't trade one to try to go get other assets, unless you're going to get another star that pairs better with the star you already have. Don't trade them, especially if you drafted both of them and they're under the age of 24. These guys aren't even in their prime yet, and they're already all-stars. So I don't think that the media who goes out there and says, oh yeah, you have to trade these guys, is very smart in terms of they give them time to develop, time to develop chemistry, time to develop their own games, time to mature. I just think that people are so quick to jump the gun on these guys, and I think they just need time. So I wanted to get into Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard won the NBA championship. Like I said earlier, he won his first finals MVP with Toronto, his second overall. And many people are talking about him leaving. People going into the season when he first got traded to Toronto, people were saying, oh yeah, this is just a 1-year rental. No way he stays in Toronto. But Toronto has done literally everything they could do to try to keep the man there. They have put a team around him. They have provided him with hospitality and support, and they've catered to every whim that he's had. They let him sit out for 20-something games this year, and he was able to give them an NBA championship. So I think both sides have given their fair share, and both sides should make the decision that's best for them. So I want Kawhi to make the decision that's going to be best for him, both from a basketball standpoint, both from a financial standpoint, and from a mental standpoint. Because we all know that the mental game in basketball is almost just as important as the physical game. Having confidence in yourself, confidence in your body is part of what makes NBA players so great, is that they have this crazy confidence. They believe every shot is going to go in. They believe that no one can guard them. They believe that they can guard any player on the planet. And they all have this savage sort of dog mentality that they're going to go get it. And that's what makes players great. Guys like LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, some of the greatest players of all time, they've had that etched into their skull. They have that sort of mentality just registered in them, so deep ingrained. But I think that's what makes a player great. So Now I just want to talk a little bit about the NBA draft. I think that the draft and free agency are the two most exciting parts of the NBA offseason. I like the summer league. I like the training camp stories that come out. But the draft and free agency are the most exciting thing because, like, I'm excited to see what Kawhi does. I prefer Kawhi to go to New York City, to be honest with you. I think he should revive one of those franchises, either the Nets or the Knicks. And to be honest, I don't really have a dog in this fight because I'm a Sixers fan. But honestly, if he leaves Toronto where he has a perfect team around him and they can't play as well as they played against the Sixers next year, then I don't see any problems with that. So I'm excited to see what he does. I'm excited to see how the draft goes. It's crazy. This year is the first year that players are going to be drafted who are younger than me, which makes me start to feel old. But at the same time, it's exciting because now I can finally relate to the players who are in the NBA. Like, I'm not really looking up to them. I'm looking at them from the same, like, we have the same mindset. Because being the same age as the guys who are in the NBA, I can sort of see, oh, maybe that's why this guy made this decision. Maybe that's why. Whereas before, I was just looking up to them and saying, oh, I wonder why a player would do this. I wonder why a player would do that. And now that we're in the same boat and being the same age, I think that's really cool. That's really cool that I'm the same age as guys in the NBA. That's something I've wanted to happen for a very long time in my life, as long as I've been an NBA fan since I was a little kid. And in this year's draft, people are saying it's top heavy. I don't think it's top heavy. I think this is one of the deeper drafts we've had in the past few years. I like some of the guys at the top, such as John Morant, the point guard out of Murray State, Jarrett Culver, the guard out of Texas Tech, and DeAndre Hunter, the forward out of University of Virginia. I like those guys at the top. I think those guys are going to be instant impacts in the NBA. I think Zion Williamson is also going to be instant impact, but everyone talks about him. He's just a fantastic athlete who's so skilled and so ready to just dominate in the NBA from a physical standpoint. I'm excited to see what he's able to do in Summer League and in his rookie season for the New Orleans Pelicans. And as a UVA fan, I want to see Kyle Guy and Ty Jerome get drafted as well. I like the University of Virginia men's basketball team. I've liked them since I was probably 14 years old. I like them because of Justin Anderson, the forward for the Atlanta Hawks. He used to go to University of Virginia. He's my favorite player in the country. God, I can't tell you how much I like watching a guy play as hard as he did and on the defensive end and on the offensive end, and he still plays with that sort of energy that's just never ending. He plays so hard, and he's just a fantastic guy. He's a fantastic person. I recommend anyone either go follow him on social media. He says such positive things. He's doing great things for the kids now. He's coaching at the NBA PA Top 100 camp, and his team won that championship there, and he looked like he was having a lot of fun doing that. So shout out to J.A., that's my guy. Hopefully one day I get to meet him. That is my goal. But I would like to see the two other UVA guys get drafted, Ty Jerome, Kyle Guy, the guards that they have. They, along with DeAndre Hunter, led the team in scoring. They made plays for other players, and they defended at a high level. People don't realize how good defensively Kyle Guy and Ty Jerome are. They just see DeAndre Hunter and how he can lock up all positions 1 through 5 at the college level, and they think, oh yeah, it's a one-man team, that's why their defense is so great. No, it's because Tony Bennett runs such a great pack line defense to where players can't really get in they force people to the middle, and it's kind of hard to do anything when you get in there because there's so much length, there's arms everywhere, everyone's just up straight up with their arms up, playing defense hard, and they never take possessions off, and it's just such a great thing to watch. You know, people think it's boring. I don't think it is. I think it's great to watch. I love watching the University of Virginia men's basketball team play. So the ideal situation would for them to be drafted by the Sixers, but I don't know if they're going to end up getting drafted by the Sixers, to be honest. I just hope the Sixers pick up guys who can come in and contribute and knock down shots and play defense. That's all they really need. They have a couple superstars already, and hopefully they're able to either re-sign Jimmy Butler, Tobias Harris, or bring in another star caliber player that I find I don't see any reason why they can't. The Sixers have the cap space before Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons really get paid for real. So I think why not? Just go ahead and do it. And overall, for the NBA draft, I'm just very excited to watch these young men fulfill their dreams and be able to finally financially support their families. Being able to financially support your family is probably one of the most fulfilling and greatest things that you could possibly do. Your family is always there for you. They're always supporting you no matter what, if you have a good family. And you're really blessed if you have a family who's able to provide for you and to sacrifice for you and to do whatever they think is in your best interest. And I think a lot of these guys are blessed, which is why they made it to this level of basketball. And I think that the fact that they can now be able to easily financially support their families is such a great thing. And I think that professional sports is such a great thing because of this. So, last but not least, I just want to talk about the Women's World Cup. I don't know much about women's soccer. I don't know much about soccer or football, as some people call it in other countries in general, but I know that the USA women's soccer team is killing it. With the 13-0 win over Thailand, I watched some of that game. It just seemed like they were scoring at will. They were scoring in any type of way they wanted. Alex Morgan had 5 goals. That was awesome. And they were able to keep that dominance up with their 3-0 win over Chile. And now they go on for the championship of their group against Sweden in the Women's World Cup. So I'm watching, I'm paying attention. These women deserve to get paid. These women deserve everything that's coming for them, because I know they work so hard to be here and they work so hard to achieve everything they have in their sports. And I know that it's tough, it's hard. As an athlete, you work so hard for something and you hope that you can make it to this level, and the fact that they've all made it to this level and that they're able to dominate at this level is huge. So shout out to the USA women's team. Women deserve equal pay, and I just think sport is such an amazing thing. I don't know where I would be without sport. I don't know where a lot of my friends and family would be without sport. Sport is just an amazing aspect of our American society, as well as throughout the world. So I'll be back next time for a draft recap, but I'm running a little long on you guys. I don't want to keep you up too long. So I'll be back with my recap of the NBA draft, as well as my prediction for free agency. So the NBA is buzzing right now. Even though the season's over, it's just getting started, in my opinion. The excitement is just beginning. So I want to thank you for listening. I hope that you continue to come back and listen. This is something I really love to do. So I thank you for supporting me and listening to me. And I just want to wish you a happy rest of the month of June. So thank you for listening. See ya. Peace.